What?
Did you ask her?
Who? Oh, announcements.
Did you give it to her? Oh, wait. I heard it on the live stream. I heard the piano on the live stream.
Doesn't matter. It sounds like garbage here.
Oh, but I heard it on the live stream. So congratulations. The live stream is on. So.
Yeah. No, it's literally like vibrating through the main speakers. It's just soft. No, it's not distorted, but it's soft. It's better. Yeah, I guess it's a little better. All right, thanks. Bye. Ready?
Hello and Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Nice to see you here on this Erev Shabbat. It's not raining. Pesach is over. Pesach is over. Pesach is over. I'm not a big fan of Pesach. I'm not a big Pesach fan. I don't know. Besides that, it's a crummy holiday.
Pesach lingers for me for a few days after.
Yeah, Pesach does linger. It does. And it's like sand. You find the pieces of matzah, and you're like, how is this here? Why is it in my car? It was never entered my car. It was never near my car. Why is it in my car? Why is my matzah crumbs in Cantor Muchnick's car?
That's weird.
That is so weird. I don't understand. It's just everywhere. I don't get it. Our adult choir here tonight. So exciting to have them with us. Bring some music into our space. We're happy that you are here as well. Of course, if this is your first time here, you've been here many times, your prayer book is under your seat. So you can reach right under your seat. It should be right there. And this is the time of the year, although the book shouldn't have been mixing because it was in two different rooms. But just make sure that your book that you find under your seat on the spine of the book says Shabbat. Make sure the spine of your book says Shabbat on it because they were mixing and moving and they were on carts because of Pesach and they're back. So make sure you have all of the right books here for us. And so if you have been following the news and looking up at the sky, will know that shortly after our service ends, God willing, the timing works right, the Artemis mission will complete its journey home after traveling hundreds. This is Artemis mission, right? But the capsule is called something else. Orion. Orion is the capsule, right? Yeah, it's the Artemis 2 mission, but it's the Orion capsule. And so returning to Earth, we hope, after traveling hundreds of thousands of miles beyond Earth and circling Moon with our astronauts to re-enter the atmosphere at like an astonishing speed. If you're watching all of the stuff on all the news channels on how the angle has to come in and the heat shield has to work, enduring intense heat, and then this moment of silence. There's a silence where there's no connection to Houston in that moment, and then finally, God willing, the splashdown into the ocean. And some say it's the most dangerous part is this getting the angles right and the windows right of getting the capsule to go at this incredible speed. I think it's half the heat of the sun, right? I think that's how hot the entry is. And so because all of that distance and all of that risk, and the goal is not just for that, but it's also to do explorations and then ultimately, certainly to come home, to have our astronauts here and for us to have those conversations. And so Shabbat's a little like this moment, if you will. Kind of after a long week, we kind of push forward. Sometimes we feel like we're on fire, just carrying through the weight of the world. But tonight, like the astronauts, God willing, we'll slow down, we'll re-enter. We pass through the noise of that fire in our lives, and we slowly will find some sanctity and some steadiness, and hopefully look for our own Shabbat splashdown. A breath of fresh air, a moment of reconnection, and a moment to be with one another. So I hope it's a wonderful Shabbat, and I hope that immediately following we'll be able to make sure that everything worked right and all of our astronauts return safely, and we get to see more and more of those pictures that we got to see if you're watching some of those pictures come through from the dark side of places we've never seen. So all hoping for that beautiful splashdown for us. We're going to be lighting our Shabbat candles. We invite Paulette Sonnenstein to join us. Page 2 in your prayer books, page 2.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. The left one first? Doesn't matter. Oh, okay. That one lit. It's amazing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Our candles are lit, and we're going to continue to sweeten our time together of Shabbat with the words of Kiddush, which can be found on page 5.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'vratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher litziat mitzrayim ki vanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim ve'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'vratzon inchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen.
Not by the flavor of the crushed grape, but by the voices of assent. We will continue with bringing Shabbat into our space with the words of Lecha Dodi. You can begin to turn to pages 20 and 21. We'll be doing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. When we get to 9, we'll be standing and facing the door to welcome in the Shabbat bride, 20 and 21. Please be seated. We continue with Chatzi Kaddish, which can be found on page 26.
Yitkada veyitkada shemei rabba be'olma divrach yirute ve'yamlich malchute b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kari ve'imeru Amen yehishmei rabba mevorach Le'olam lol mehamaya yitbarach ve'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitroma v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudesha berichu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran be'olma ve'imeru.
Amen. We continue with our call to worship. Baruch Hu, page 28. 28. Together we stand.
Lai, 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 lai,
Thank God for making night as we roll into that darkness together. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on that evening into our midst, and then, of course, rolls us into the morning, just as God intends. We continue now, Shema 34:35.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Please be seated. We continue with V'ahavta on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Even though we were just standing on those shores this last week and still felt the waters on both sides of us, we get to do it all the time to reflect on the ability for us to leave Egypt. Let's read together on 39 at the top of the page. Standing on the parted shores of history was to believe what we were ever taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, there's eternally Egypt. There's a better place, a promised land, and the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there's no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Micha Mocha, page 40. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts. We may lie down in peace and rise up to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai hapores sukat shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim. We continue with Hashkivenu on page 42. The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat, observing Shabbat throughout the ages as a covenant for all time, the beginning of the words of Vishamru, which we can now join together with our adult choir on page 44. We'll give our choir a millisecond to sit down. And there it was, because now we're going to stand for the Amidah, which begins on page 46.
Adonai, sifatai tiftachu fi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Koneh HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevii Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol atah Rav leHoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel Chayim bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Micha mocha bal gevurot, Umidom elach, Melech memit umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'neman atah lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kadoshim mechol yom yahalelucha selah, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
We take some time now for our own silent prayers, thoughts, and meditations, beginning here on page 52 through page 62. Whenever you're finished, please be seated. Continue on page 60. That's good. So we just finished Pesach, and we sat at our seders and we told the story of leaving Egypt and reminded ourselves what it means to go from narrowness to possibility and from slavery to freedom. And then almost immediately, we opened this week's Torah portion called Shmini, which means eighth. It is the sort of eighth day of the ordination process for Aaron and his 3 sons. And it's jarring, actually, because Shmini begins with a moment of incredible spiritual height because of this ordination, because these are literally the first sort of priesthood that begins in Judaism. The Mishkan is built, the tabernacle is finally completed, the people gather around it, Aaron begins his sacred service, and a divine fire sort of comes through from heaven, and the people sort of pray in awe to this moment. It's an incredible, fabulous moment. It is, in many ways, the culmination of everything we just experienced, if you will, through Pesach. We weren't in the priesthood all the way back then, but it's sort of in that same moment. And then suddenly, without warning, tragedy strikes. Nadav and Avihu, who are 2 of Aaron's sons, who may have been very excited about what they had just learned, bring what the Torah calls an esh zara, a strange fire. And instead of the animal being consumed by the fire, they get consumed by the fire. It's a conversation we're going to actually have tomorrow morning in Torah study, one of the most fascinating and difficult Torah studies. So if you've not been to one in a while, tomorrow morning at 8:30 might be one you want to attend. It's a pretty fascinating and complicated piece of text. So we go from height to incredible grief, and then Aaron, their father, the response that he has to this moment in the Torah is says, Vayidom Aharon, which means Aaron was silent. He says nothing. That silence is one of the most powerful moments in Torah, and again, something we'll discuss tomorrow, because it teaches us something we don't always like to admit, that life does not move in a straight line. We move from redemption to uncertainty, from clarity to confusion, from joy to moments we just can't explain. Pesach tells us of a Seder, of making things in order. And then Shmini reminds us of the fragility of that order. And that is exactly where we find ourselves, I think, right now in this world, in this moment, looking around us at the news, at the complicated nature of wherever you're watching your news, whatever streaming device, whatever television station, whatever you're watching. I think we're living in a time when the world just feels completely uncertain. There is, I would say, a fragility in the order of things. One thing clearly in our hearts, as we sit here as Am Yisrael, as the people of Israel, this ceasefire we're watching is very fragile. It is holding, but it is barely holding. Maybe it is not even holding. Rockets still fall, tensions still rise. There is a constant awareness that what feels stable today might not at all be stable tomorrow. And at the same time, there is a deeper truth that we hold, particularly when we think of Israel. Israel, like any people, will protect life. When there are those who seek to harm us, there must be also defense, not vengeance, but out of the sacred obligation to preserve life. And yet, even saying that we know this to be true, this is not simple, and this is not neat, and this is not the kind of world we wish to live in, where we're constantly living in that fragility. And that is exactly the emotional space of Shmini, of this week's Torah portion, because Shmini is not a portion of easy answers. How do we live in a world where holiness and brokenness exist literally side by side in every moment? How do we celebrate moments of divine presence while also carrying the weight of loss, of fear, and uncertainty? And maybe the Torah's answer is found in Aaron this week. Vaidom Aharon. Aaron's silence, perhaps, and we will discuss this again, Aaron's silence is not weakness. It is not resignation. It is the quiet strength of someone who refuses to let grief destroy his capacity to stand in sacred space. Because what does Aaron do next, if you know the text? What does he do immediately following this moment? He continues. He gets up. He shows up. He remains in relationship with God, with the community, with life itself, actually. And maybe that is the message for us. We do not have control over the world. We do not have control over outcomes. We do not get the comfort of simple narratives. But we do control one thing: how we respond, how we show up. How can we choose to do that? How can we choose that community is more important in these moments? We can choose to hold both pain and hope at the same time and show up. Pesach taught us that redemption is possible, and Shmini teaches us that even after redemption, the work is not nearly done. And maybe the most important line of all comes just after the tragedy, when God reminds Aaron and the people, Lahavdil ben kodesh lechol, that there has to be a distinguish between the holy and the sacred, and that is the push and pull we're always in. We carry the memory of freedom and the reality of uncertainty. We carry pride and concern, strength and vulnerability. And like Aaron, we stand and we think, and not like all answers. We can't find them in every moment, but we do find that resilience. And we do find that the power that we do have is to respond. Not with certainty necessarily, but with our presence. And so on this Shabbat, I wish all of us a peaceful Shabbat and a lovely Shabbat, and a Shabbat in which we connect with one another, and a Shabbat where we realize that even after Pesach and that redemption, there is still more to do, and that we can choose to hold both that pain and that hope at the same time, and that ultimately the only thing that we do have in our control is how we respond. Shabbat Shalom. We think of those who need some blessing of healing, some physical, emotional, or spiritual blessing in our community. We think of those on our Mishaberach list. We think of Lillian Angel and Gary Bandel and Tori Bandel, Joel Coleman, Adam Danton, Marcia Davis, Mark Davis, Mitch Fine, Lois Gammerman, Howard Hertzberg, Robin Hertzberg, Jane Levy, Henna Mekla, Gail Medoff, Michael Medoff, Jennifer Marie Salad, Joshua Levi Salad, Rachel Siegel Sanchez, Jeannie Sasson, David Schwartz, Renee Schwartz, Miriam Schumacher, Sheila Smith, Stephen Smith, Bob Vollmer, Rabbi Wender, Michael Zoll, Mar Lynn Schneider, Mabel Leandra, Susan Stein Chiesa. To those names, we had any name that you'd like to add at this time. Mishaber can be found on page 253, 253 in your Siddurim.
of strength. Bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheperach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We have some announcements for you this evening. They'll be coming from Amanda Tillman, who has been on the board for a while, but now is on the executive committee of our board as our VP of Admin. So it's a pleasure to have Amanda up here with us.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you to our adult choir for being here this evening and sharing your musical talents with us. From now until April 20th, CBI will be hosting listening sessions. As we begin the search for our next senior rabbi, the Rabbinic Search Committee invites you to share your thoughts, hopes, and perspectives. Registration is required. Join the book club over Zoom on April 16th at 7:30 p.m. to discuss Heart of a Stranger by Rabbi Angela Buchdahl. Okay. April 17th is Shabbat Tekuma between Yom HaShoah and Yom HaAtzmaut. Shabbat Tekuma marks the transition from the darkness of tragedy to the light of rebuilding. Join our community as we reflect on this journey from remembrance to renewal at 7 p.m. On Wednesday, April 22nd at 7 p.m., we are celebrating brotherhood. Enjoy socializing and salutations as we thank Phil Wishna for his tenure and congratulate our incoming CBI Brotherhood President, Adam Rudikoff. Registration's filling up for our second annual Kiddush Cup Golf Tournament. Join us Thursday, May 7th at Del Air Country Club for an afternoon of golf and lunch. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor, contact Elise Kaplan in admin offices. Reminder, our Mishavei Rock list is cleared at the end of every month. Please fill out the form found on our website to add any loved ones to the list. Yahrzeit letters have gone digital and are now delivered via email through ShulCloud. Please join us in the North Social Hall for Oneg following services. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Her previous announcements were good, but like now as a VP, I mean, it was just like, it was a whole, could you feel the difference in the pronunciation? Could you feel it? Like yeah. Could you? Yeah, see? Nice. I don't know. Yeah, I think there are like very few spots left for the golf.
I heard 7.
Yeah, like really, really few. So if you're interested in getting a pair of the to your, put together for the thing, I think there's really 7. I think there's even less. It's like really, really closing. So you or anyone else who wants to be in part of a pairing for the golf tournament, it's rapidly shutting. All right. We're going to do Elenu. Before we do, Rabbi Greenberg's here. I'd like to point out when he's hanging out with us. There he is in the background. It's always nice to have another clergy in the room to tell us, afterwards, what he thought. We're going to surprise you with doing the drash, to have you come up here and do the sermon. Do you want to come up and do a second one with us? Next week. All right, great. Oh, you were here. He said next week. So that was good. Thank you. I don't know. All right. All right, we're going to begin to include our service. with Aleinu, page 282 in your prayer books, 282, and together we stand.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגאור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו Echad.
We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at the season in years past, and those we've drawn into our hearts with our own Zichronam Livracha. May their memories be for a blessing. Harry Abraham Holwazer recently passed, but service has not happened yet, so not on Tuesday, so not yet within the period of Shiva. That name will be read officially in Shiva next week. In the period of Shloshim, Barbara Berman, and our yortzites that occur for us this week, Scott Abish, Stanley Butwin, Gloria Cohen, Betty Kahn, Felix Furr, Faye Geronimus, Joseph Goldberg, Joel Aaron Gordon, Abraham Grummett, Lawrence Hirschman, Marshall Kaplan, Michael Linder, Gertrude Lekumnik, David Marlowe, Helen Merwitzer, founding president Joel S. Nadell, Sylvia Ruth, Daniel Martin Schubert, Jacob Siegel, Stanley Silber, Renee Singer, Judy Smirlson, Florence Kent Spinrad, Jeffrey Statler, Leona Tools, Dr. Jaffe. To those names, we had any that you'd like to add at this time? I said Sylvia Ruth. All I have is Sylvia Ruth. That's all I have here. Kadisha Tom, Mourner's Kaddish, 294 in your Siddur. 294. Yitkadal v'kadash shemei rabah, be'alma divrach riuteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chai echon v'yom echon, v'chai dechol beit Yisrael, bagala b'zman kariv v'imru, amen. שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולמי עולמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תשבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel. As together we say, Amen. Please be seated. Oh, yeah. Anyone here under the age of bar and bat mitzvah? I see one. Person. Do you want to come up here and do the motzi for us? Do you want to come up here? Come up here. Come on up. You get a whole challah for yourself.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread.
Thanks, God.
Our voices
Wait,
rise
hold on.
in song together as our joyful prayer is said.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Again, special thanks to our adult choir for the beautiful music you shared with us throughout our Erev Shabbat. And they're going to conclude for us with the words of Shalom Aleichem, which, if you want to follow along, are on page 24 in your Sidurim. 24. Adonai varech et amo v'shalom. May God give strength unto our people. Continue to bless us with hope and strength and love and peace. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Shabbat shalom.